Yo, big up, Wagwan, wire pre, where you deal with, where you depend, up top, blessings. We're there again with another one. You don't know how it go. Clinical Jamaican citizen, your favorite YouTuber, but don't worry, not gonna tell you other YouTuber them where you watch. It has to be a secret between me and you. You don't know that go. But as you guys see in the title, football is back. I've been talking about this for the past week. We have been waiting since the end of last season. We had preseason games trying to make it feel like it's the same, and even that took a while to come around. And when we saw that Community Shield game, we really saw first of all, watching preseason, we saw the difference of no football at all to preseason and how much we missed it. And then when we saw the Community Shield and the intensity of that game, we really saw that preseason games were not even really all that. And now I think we'll see an even further step up on Friday with the Premier League 23-24 season opener with Burnley Football Club versus Manchester City. Obviously, this game will be hosted by Burnley. It is an away game for our first game, and this is the first time in a good while I can remember at least Manchester City opening the season, especially on a Friday game. So let's see what type of spectacle we can have on Friday. But as you guys know, we're here to break it down and basically give you my thoughts. You guys can share your thoughts in the comments as well, whether you are to join me here live or after the video. Just leave your comments, let me know your thoughts on the game. You can um, basically tell me what you're expecting, leave your score predictions, players who you are expecting to see feature and want to keep an eye on throughout that game, because these are all stuff that I want to go through here. And I'll try to keep this relatively short, spicy. You don't know how it go. By the way, those who haven't realized, new background, I'm rating it. I'm liking it. Let me know if you guys like the new background as well. I think this give a nice touch, and I think I want to keep this for um away games, both preview and review. I want to do this for away games, and I will also have a home background as well, new, never before seen on the channel. So definitely keep an eye out for that. That will be against Newcastle. The preview for that match, you will be able to see that new background. But nevertheless, let's kick it off. And first and foremost, I do want to start talking about Burnley. So I have been impressed from what I've seen with Burnley since Vincent Company took over. I don't think it's any secret that I really respect Vincent Company as a person and as a footballer. And now he's showing me that I can also respect him as a manager, because he's translated that ability that he had into management as well. And he's showing the influence of Pep Guardiola on him as a player, as well as possibly a bit of other influences from previous managers, both at Manchester City before his Manchester City career and possibly even with his Belgium career as well. So without that being said, I do want to say I personally believe that Burnley will stay up in the Premier League this season. I do not think they'll get relegated. If they are, I'll be surprised. I definitely will be surprised. I do think Company is a manager that seems prepared for the seasons ahead. In his first season at Burnley, he broke a long-standing record of point standing in the championship, and that was very well spoken of by a lot of championship experts as well, and immediately gave Burnley promotion back into the Premier League. So it'd be very surprising to see him move on from that to not stay or maintain in Premier League status, even though it is his first season in the Premier League as a manager. Completely different levels from the Championship, but I personally do believe that he has the minerals to keep Burnley in the league. That being said, I do think Company is a good manager. I like his style of play and football. We all know that Vincent Company spent his years professionally playing football as a central defender. So to see this brilliant, free-flowing, attacking footballer he's playing is semi-surprising, but he also played under Pep Guardiola. So you're looking at that and you clearly see where the majority of his influence is coming from a managerial standpoint. And on top of that, as a defender, you see the aggression and the the vigor that his team defends with. They love defending as well, and I think that's a making of a brilliant team right there. I think in a couple of years, if and he recently signed a contract extension with Burnley until 2028. I think in a couple of years, maybe like two more seasons from now, at least mid-table status, at least, and I'm talking solid mid-table status, and teams will be looking to pry him away from Burnley at that point in time. It's only a matter of where he goes, and I know a lot of Manchester City fans do hope to see Vincent Company one day manage Manchester City after Pep Guardiola does eventually leave. As you know, it will inevitably happen. He's not going to be here forever, but a lot of people are touting Vincent Company to be that guy. And if he continues on the trajectory that he is now as a manager, I do think that is a very good possibility and a welcoming one as well. Because the style of football that he plays, the understanding of the game that he has, and the Pep Guardiola influence, being in Manchester City for over 10 years and playing on Pep Guardiola for the majority of his tenure at the club, I do think that he understands what this current version of Manchester City is about. So it's just a matter of time to see what company's managerial career has in store for everyone. I do want to make a small throwback to the last time we played Burnley, and it was Vincent Company in charge. It's the first battle against Manchester City with Pep Guardiola and Burnley with Vincent Company. This was in the FA Cup last season on our way to eventually winning the competition. And if I recall that game correctly, we won 6-0, and after the first half, it was 2-0. But I do think it's important to note that up until about the 40th minute, it was nil-nil, and it was a very, very close game. We obviously had the better chances in the game, in my opinion, but I do think that they defended very, very well, and they gave us a very tough battle, similar to the first half against Sheffield United in the same FA Cup competition. I think the round after that one. Um, Obviously, we know that I think Burnley did the double over Sheffield United last season in the Championship. So side to side, they would appear to be the stronger team. But that 6-0 result, I think, was the result of us getting fully into our flow, a much stronger lineup that we had played against Burnley than against Sheffield. And in the second half is where we scored a majority of those goals and created a majority of those chances. So if we are looking back at that first half, I do think that that is what we really should be expecting from Burnley in this coming game. I do think that we can make a stretch away from them in terms of goal scoring and just sheer quality. But at this point in the season, having played us already, Burnley will have that a bit of fear factor, I believe. This team beat us 6-0. They can't just completely erase that from their mind. But at the same time, they'll be looking at themselves like, you know what, we give them a good game for 40 minutes. After that, we kind of lost our heads. We can see the two goals in quick succession just before halftime, and then they're fighting a very steep uphill battle from there into the second half, where we kind of started meshing a bit more. Kevin De Bruyne and Phil Foden were finding the likes of Erling Haaland and Julian Alvarez, and when that's happening, it's just a matter of time before the goals start flying in. So I think Burnley will have a better tactical plan, having played us already as recently as a couple months ago, and they'll be definitely putting that on display on Friday. Furthermore, this is their first match back in the Premier League. This is Company's first match in the Premier League. I'm sure he would have done his due diligence on Manchester City. I'm sure he would be sitting up, finding the best possible game plan to take to. Well, we are going to turf more than are coming to the Etihad. I'm sure they'll come with the best possible plan to host us, and I'm pretty sure we should be expecting a very difficult, tough. I don't think we should be looking at a lot of space in the game. I think they'll close that down. I think they'll try to man mark or create our chance creators. I think that's what they tried to do in the FA Cup as well. They tried to stay on the likes of Kevin De Bruyne and Phil Foden. I think one of them came on in the game though, and Alvarez started a little bit deeper inside the midfield. But regardless, they tried to man mark, and that was their tactic coming into the game in the FA Cup. So I'm thinking similarly. one second. Erratic Kid says, waited too late to join the fantasy league. No, it's not too late. The link that I sent you, you should be able to join at any point in time. And as long as you already have your team built, then the points will automatically be accumulated. So any team you join, any league you join after that point, it will automatically update your team score into that particular league. It just refreshes after a particular game week. And I'll get to your question about Chelsea real soon. But yeah, I think it will be a tough game that won't see us having a lot of space against Burnley. And I do think that Company himself will want to show something, prove something against his former manager, Pep Guardiola, in the game. So we'll get to score prediction soon enough, but I want to give Burnley the relevant respect. I think a lot of people, based on the scoreline of the last time we played them, will probably come with something similar to a 6-0, and also from just sheer hope of Manchester City starting off the season incredibly strong. Combining the fact that Manchester City doesn't usually start the season very strong, and we just lost our last two friendly games, including the Community Shield. I don't think we should be expecting anything close to 4 goals. Personally, if we do score 4 goals, I'd be shocked. I would not expect that from Burnley first game at Turf Moor. Definitely, definitely not. But like I said, we'll get to score predictions soon enough. Um, Personally, I'm hoping to see 3 players from Manchester City ideally start. I'm looking at Phil Foden as a first player. I think both him and Bernardo Silva will play a similar role in the fact of I need both of you guys to be the main creative outlets. I don't expect to see Kevin De Bruyne start the game. Kevin De Bruyne came on for about the last 10 minutes, well, 20 minutes, including the added time at the end of the game in the Community Shield. He didn't look fully fit to me. He did look probably 80% fit. And I do think it was good for him to get those minutes. I do also think that he can feature in the game against Burnley, but I would not rush to start him in the game and risk another injury or get a 80% Kevin De Bruyne when we can just ease him into the season and we get long-term sustenance from him health-wise. So I would love to see Foden start as the main creator next to Kovacic and Rodri in the midfield, and I would like him to link up with Bernardo on that right hand side to create us something. I don't think Foden will be the one to score the goal. I think Bernardo might be the one to score the goal, but I do think Foden can be the one to create that or at least control the game from a chance creation standpoint for us. And the second player I want to look at is actually not Bernardo Silva. I want to look at Haaland. Now, we do remember last season in the Community Shield, Haaland did not have the best of games against Liverpool. He was getting trolled for missing an apparently open goal. And he started the next game against West Ham away as well. And he scored 2 goals in our 2-0 win against West Ham. So keeping that in mind, in this particular game, he didn't have the best game against Arsenal in the Community Shield last game on Sunday. But I am expecting to see Erling Haaland recover from that type of performance, and I do think he won't be afford a lot of space. I do think the Burnley defenders will be very, very wary of him, and I do think that they'll try to specifically man mark the midfield areas of balls going into Erling Haaland. But what I do expect to see is Erling Haaland linking up with Ederson, similar to how we played against Arsenal at the Etihad last season, where Ederson would be clipping the ball over the top, over the midfield, and Erling Haaland would be the one winning those aerial battles, getting the ball down and to the feet of our players. I do think in a similar role, Pep Guardiola will be looking to use Erling Haaland like that again, and he can affect the game in that way. I think it will be very, very crucial for him to be that target man for us, whether it's from Ederson or from Kovacic or Phil Foden in the midfield areas. But I do think he'll have a lot of link-up play related stuff to do. He might also be needed to latch on to a number of crosses. I do not see us working with a lot of space to where Erling Haaland can expect multiple passes to his feet, especially not at the current level that we're playing at. We're not at the scintillating best that won us the treble last season. I do think we're slowly building up to that, and we did look good against Arsenal in the Community Shield. But the fact of the matter is, we did not create much. So I'm looking to see a bit of that, at least for the first half from Haaland, and maybe in the second half, after players get a bit more tired, he can start getting a bit more space to operate with, and hopefully can chip in with something on the score sheet. And the third player I want to look at, which I already mentioned once, is Kovacic. Again, he was a player that I was looking at in the Community Shield. I liked what I saw from Kovacic. From our perspective, I do think I would give him the Man of the Match award. Personally, I love how he looks on the ball. I think he's a perfect Pep Guardiola player, and I do think he fits the system and what we're trying to do. And I already mentioned before, in the first and second phase of play, I think he is a lot like Gundogan. Actually, do think no, he, from what I've seen so far, which I admit is a small sample size, this might be very soon to say, but I do think that he plays the first and second phase better than Gundogan. I think defensively, out and out defensively, he will be a bigger asset than Gundogan was. But all, of course, all in all, Gundogan by far the better player because he's not clearing any of those first or second phase areas. But Gundogan is clear of Kovacic in the third phase of play. So I'm not trying to compare both of them as a player, but I do think that those two areas are two that Kovacic would slightly edge Ilkay Gundogan in. So I do think that he will be dropping next to Rodri a bit to give us that extra bit of control. I think he'll be the main ball carrier along with Foden further, slightly further ahead of him, but he'll be the one advancing the ball mainly from the first or second phase of play all the way into the final third, and possibly giving the ball to Jack Grealish or Phil Foden to be the main creators, because I don't think Kovacic is that creative outlet that we need in the team, at least not yet. So I do think his role will be massively important. Coming into the team, I didn't think Kovacic would immediately be a starter. I think he would be more rotated, although I did believe that he had the quality to start games. But what I've seen from him so far in preseason and in the Community Shield, I don't think we can drop this guy right now because he's on form, man. Like with the ball on his feet, it's like players don't want to get close to him because he's just gonna go around them. He's just that good. He's that confident, and I think he's just understanding the system so much quicker than players normally do in their first year. So I definitely want to keep an eye on what Kovacic can offer. I might be wrong and he doesn't start, but based on the profile of him, I think Pep Guardiola loves players like him, so he will start him. And if he does play well, I do think he'll continue to start games as well. Erratic Kid asked, "How do I feel about Chelsea's team this season?" I said before that I think this version of Chelsea is a bit underrated. I don't think people are expecting a lot from them because they finished 12 last season. But with that being said, the manager is Pochettino. Pochettino is a good manager, regardless of what a lot of people say. He hasn't won a vast majority of trophies. Obviously, he won League One with PSG last season, but come on, majority of managers who go into PSG will win League One, so it's not really that wild to believe. But I do think he's a very good tactical manager. I do love the brand of football that he plays. I think it's really good compared to other managers. Not gonna call a name. But I like his progressive style of football. His talent ID as well is really good, and he likes good technical ballers, which is nice to watch. I do think he's exactly what Chelsea need right now, um, since they were so disorganized, and he was the one who built a good system at Spurs for them to go on and establish themselves as a top four team in this era. So I do think he can do the same for Chelsea in this coming season. I do think he can get them Champions League football. And Ratikid also says, think they're going to be a threat. Yeah, I do think they'll definitely be a threat. I don't think teams will enjoy going to Stamford Bridge as they did last season. I don't think they'll come ripping up any trees like any big defeats against any other current big six or teams that finished in the top four last season. But I do think that them being underrated will play into their benefit. So I'm not losing sight of that. But anyway, just to keep it back on track with Burnley and Manchester City, because I do want to keep this preview as short as possible. I want to move on and talk about Burnley players that I want to keep an eye on. And the first one that I want to note is a player called Zaruri. From what I remember, he played against us in the FA Cup and he was electric, a very electric player. I want to compare him to Riyad Mahrez because not because he's Moroccan and both players would be African, but his style of play, like his dribbling was insanely good. Maybe not insanely good. Maybe I'm guessing him a little bit too much, but I do think his link up play and dribbling was good, and he was definitely one of Burnley's better players on the day. I do think that he'll come in to start this season. I think company likes this type of player as well, and he might prove tricky for our fullbacks as well as in the championship. I do think it's a bit more out and out defensive compared to the Premier League. Premier League is more systems, but if you watch the championship when wingers are going up against fullbacks, it's like the 1v1 and defending it gets a bit aggressive. So the profile of player winger in the Premier League dribbling against our fullbacks is going to be a different battle versus a championship style winger dribbling against your fullbacks. And I think that's what makes cup games a bit exciting sometimes. So I'm looking at Zaruri to possibly cause some issues. I think he was a right winger, if I remember correctly. I'm not sure if he's a right or a left winger. But I do know that this player will be one to watch in the game. And another player I do want to keep an eye on is James Trafford. We just sold him to Burnley this season. He is a goalkeeper in the mold of Ederson, really good on the ball. I did think he won the was it under 21 World Cup? He won an England competition recently. I think it was the under 21 World Cup, and he was really good. I think was it a penalty that he saved in the final. I'm not sure if he had a penalty shootout earlier in the stages as well, but he was. I watched that last game that they had against Spain, and trust me, I don't think he would have dislodged Ederson, so it was probably the right decision to make him leave. But he is a good player. He is confident, and I do think that at Burnley, he will be able to gain even more confidence. Probably what I expected of Bazuno at Southampton last season, but they went on and got relegated. I don't think that Burnley will get relegated this season. They also have Muric, who is also a former Manchester City player. And similarly, he was good in the championship for them as well. So with both keepers, although both of them are young and not experienced, they have another keeper there who has good experience and seems to be leading the young lads fairly well. So I don't see that becoming a major issue for Burnley. I also think whatever um defensive construct that Vincent Company will have Burnley under will be better than whatever Southampton did have last season. So I do think James Trafford will probably start the game. I think he's played the majority of the games in preseason for Burnley. So I'm expecting to see him start the game. And being a former Manchester City player, I do think he'll have a point to prove and want to show out his best performance against his former club. And the final player I do want to look at is Joshua Brownhill. Now, Brownhill is a player who has been at Burnley since 2020, I believe, and since then he has played a lot of games for them, almost 200 games in the championship for Burnley. And was it no? I'm sorry, not in the championship. Was it? I think maybe it was in the championship actually. Now that I'm thinking about it, because he has played, or maybe it's 189 games, all comps or league comps, something like that. But I did check what he has been doing for them. He's a player that has been ringing bells since his time in the Premier League with Burnley. He has been a mainstay in their team for the past couple of seasons, rarely missing games or getting substituted. I think whichever manager has been there before has taken a liking to this type of player, and he seems very adaptable to manager styles. I do think he will stay at Burnley for a long time. I don't even remember what team he was at before Burnley, but he seems like a proper Burnley lad, so I don't see why he'd leave. And he seems like one of those dependable players as well that managers can rely on. I think he is one that gets along with teammates as well, based on his simpler constructive playing style. And I do think I'm almost sure that he'll start the game against us, and he'll be one of those steady-headed players, kind of like the mold of a Gundogan for us, where we know that Gundogan is on the ball. He's not going to be one to give the ball away. He can come up with creating chances for us. I think that's how Burnley players look at Josh Brownhill, and I do think he's a reliable player for them. So I'm looking at him as one of those leaders in the team that can get help Burnley to get something from us if they were to go on to get something from us in the game. Erratic Kid says, I see you looking forward to this season. I'm also looking forward to this season. I do think a lot of teams will be better than last season, but yeah, I'm keeping my expectations a bit tempered though because I want to see what other teams are showing me before I give too much of my thoughts. But my thoughts are always here for anyone who needs or wants to know what they are. Um, I think a big part of this game will be the tactical battle between Vincent Company and Pep Guardiola. Obviously, Pep Guardiola has been a manager for far longer than Vincent Company. Pep Guardiola is one of the best managers in the world, if not the best manager of all time. He is definitely in that conversation. And Vincent Company has just started out his managerial career. So to compare both managers directly, it is a bit unfair. But Vincent Company is one of those up and coming managers in the league. Tactically, I'm not sure from a first hand experience of how good he is because the only game he played against Manchester City, they lost 6-0. But from that first half, it told me that he can prepare a very strong system. And from what I know of him being at Manchester City and being our captain for several years, I know that he is a brilliant man manager as well in terms of managing personalities. So, coupling those things, I think he'll be a great manager. But tactically, from what I've seen from him in the championship, seeing that they lost what, maybe 3 games all season or something like that, and breaking records in the championship, I do think that he has some sort of tactical notes that I'm just not privy to. And that might come out on show tomorrow, not tomorrow, on Friday, seeing that he has played us once before. He understands inside and out a bit of what Manchester City want to do and what Pep's philosophies are. But now he has that sample of playing against us, seeing it up front from an opponent's perspective, and now he might be able to counter what we are trying to do that much better than what he would have last season. So I'm looking at that battle. I'm looking at the tactical games that both managers will want to employ. I'm looking at that community shield with Pep Guardiola. I think he didn't have Haaland and KDB or Haaland and Foden on the pitch at any point in time because he wanted to save that for what we could do with this season. Kind of like hiding his cards, not letting it be known what he's planning or what they've been working on or practicing behind the scenes, and to shock the world with it in actual games. That might start with Burnley, that might start with Newcastle in our first home game of the season, and we'll just have to wait and see where it comes out because I'm relishing the look of Haaland plus Foden or Haaland plus KDB or even Haaland with Foden and KDB because trust me, that will be one to be seen. But I am very interested to see the lineup for this game. Obviously, I'm not going to do a lineup prediction because it is Pep Guardiola. It is almost impossible to predict whatever lineup Pep Guardiola is going to come with. So I'm not going to put myself through that. But as it relates to a prediction for the game, I will go with 2-1 Manchester City. I'm going 2-1. I know 2-1 is a bit of a safe prediction that most people go with. But my reason for the 2-1 is just if Haaland can get on the score sheet. That's it. I wanted to go with 1-0. I don't know if that would be too much respect for Burnley. It might be, but I think 2-1 gives credit to Burnley. I do think that offensively, they'll want to show what they can do in their first home game back in the Premier League. I think the atmosphere will be crazy. I expect their stadium to be full. And yeah, I do think the fans will be fully up for it to push the team over the line. And if you're coupling that with the fact that the players want to prove themselves and give the fans something to be excited for the rest of the season, I do think that's not a good combination for us. So I don't want to say we're going to beat Burnley 3-0, 4-0, and then we tie the game 1-1. Although I don't want a 1-1 either. So I'm going with 2-1 Manchester City. Bernard to score at some point in the game and potentially Haaland to get his first goal of the season to basically replicate what he did against West Ham last season. They slander him in the Community Shield and he comes back first game of the season with a goal to open his account and basically be a pretext to what he will be doing for the rest of the season. So that's pretty much what I have. 2-1 to Manchester City against Burnley. I will be doing a match review after the game on Saturday. Yeah, on Saturday after all the games are played, probably around the same time as now. Definitely not one to miss. And guys, let's continue. Like the stream. You don't know, subscribe as well and help me get to 80 subscribers. And the goal is to get to 100 before the end of the year. We're still the 76 out of 100. A long time now with the 76 out of 100. You see me? So just help me get to 80. You can do it in increments. As a matter of fact, help me get to 77. We start with 77 and take with time and get to 80. But eventually, just want to know, say, we get there over time. But yeah, a lot of stuff planned. Still have a lot of stuff to go through this season, and I do have something big on the channel I want to plan for August later in the month as well. So I'll give you guys more information as it relates to that later down. But definitely keep liking the videos, keep subscribing, keep tuning in as well, because we will be getting on some great guests as well. Not just City fans, other fans as well. We have FIFA games coming up, and we have a lot of Manchester City content, considering the fact that the season is starting and football is back. But don't tired for say that now. Football is back. But yeah, until next time, my side, up the blues, treble winners. Don't forget it. Three-peat as well. Don't forget it. But yeah, until next time.